Hi guys, welcome to a new FD on My 21 video, and today we are looking at a car that Georgina has had for a little while, and I've been working lovingly on this car to try and get it to a standard where it's at least acceptable, and it's still not there really, but yeah. So Georgina, what is it?
It is a Volvo 480 Turbo. So, as mentioned, this is Vinny. He is a 1991 Volvo 480 Turbo. Being 1991, it was one of the last ones which would have got the 1.7 litre petrol turbo engine. It produces about 119 horsepower, and if you look online, you're looking at 0 to 60 of about 8.5 to 9 seconds. So it's by no means a slouch of a car. They obviously made the 480, they do like an ES and S, just a 480, but I was very fixed on having a turbo, so you get that wonderful badge on the back which says it's a turbo, and everyone's like, oh my god, it's a 480 turbo, because not many of these survive, sadly. This car in particular was off the road for 18 years at least before I decided to spend my money on it and be an absolute idiot, because it's a real big pain in mine and Owen's arse. I bought it back in October, very cheap. I'm not going to go into figures, it was very cheap in mine and Owen's opinion, and based on the money we've spent, I couldn't have bought a working one cheaper anyway. The car ran okay, but that didn't mean that anything else was okay, so what I'll do is I'll kind of walk you around the car. This is going to be like a fault finding kind of video for this car, sadly, but hopefully we can do like videos in the future and we can like just show you how far it's come, because it will go far then. So starting at the back, you've obviously got, this is like quite an iconic thing for the 480. I'm going to get it wrong. What's the one that came before it?
I think it's the P1800, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was it. I was going to say that, but I didn't want to get it wrong. So obviously the P1800 came first, and had this full glass tailgate. They then put it over onto this, and if you're more into your modern cars, you get the C30 now, which has the full glass tailgate like this. So obviously this is the only bit that opens. Again, these are quite iconic of the 480, but sadly, like quite a few of them, these lights just aren't holding up anymore. These were worse when we picked it up, believe it or not. We've sanded them a bit, we've tried to use toothpaste on them, but we think it's in the light as well, so it's just not coming up.
They're so brittle as well that getting them out, they do tend to break, don't they?
We think they'll break, so we don't want to take them off until we've got a new set. And the cheapest I've been offered a new set so far is nearly £1,000, and that's what I've put into this car so far, so I don't want to do that. And also, there's a crack there, but they're not chipped around the outside. Again, that's very rare. This is what it's meant to look like. This is new. The one that came on the car was inevitably, like, it should be cracked at the top. Ignore the keyhole, because that looks like someone's tried to break into it at some point.
That's fine.
But yeah, that's what the lights are meant to look like. Fingers crossed, the French 480 group are making replica rear lights, which are going to be about £300 to £400. It's a lot of money, but when this gets restored, I will want the new lights on there. So hopefully that is something that's going to come in the future. If we keep going around the car, then the side is again another iconic thing of the Volvo 480. So door stop, cheese wedge, that's what I always get. When I called up to insure this, the guy was like, the door stop car, I haven't seen one of those in ages. So that's what a lot of people know it for. Sadly, you can probably tell the condition of this one is not very good. It's in the iconic colours, so this was what the 480 Turbo was released in, the black with the red, and when I saw this one in black and red, I was like, but that doesn't mean I'm going to keep it that colour. So even though I'm getting really excited that I got one in that colour, I don't think it'll stay, because I'm going to get it properly resprayed and make it my own. So if we start with yet another negative, arch has rusted. Only kind of like a bit of a chunk actually, but yeah, like this bit has
a couple
gone.
of small holes, but ultimately it's still there.
It's still solid, and I will have this redone.
I wouldn't use the word solid.
Kind of.
Kind of solid.
Kind of solid, yeah.
What's left?
We'll go with what's left is fine, and I can deal with it because I've always had rusty old cars, so it's fine. Obviously, with it being sat out, the old owner had it sat on the drive, so I don't know if it's been sat on the drive longer and things like that, but it's sat in the sun, so all the seals have...
Yeah, we could do especially these sort of seals here, can we?
Yeah, we could do with them, sadly. This panel, I don't really know what's gone on with it, but it's been sanded. So
it's got a few dents and scratches, but overall it is what it is, isn't it?
It is what it is. The car, I don't know what's happened to it in the time it's been off the road, but it's literally like someone's gone around it with a hammer and just battered it. Maybe with a cat.
Yeah.
And they've done that because it's so battered. I feel so bad for it.
It's even got a dent in the roof and stuff, hasn't it? Just a small divot here.
And
it's just in random places.
And the scratches.
Yeah.
There is not a panel on this car that isn't badly scratched. It's quite funny. You take pictures of it, and I don't know if it'll be the same in this video, but it looks really nice, and people will be like, wow, that's so good condition. Wow, it really is great. And I'm like, but it's not. I'm like, I know it's not, and I know you'll see it in person and be absolutely horrified by the state of it. Another one you'll probably see from the side is quite a low boy. It didn't need it, but because it'd been off the road so long, I said, well, we should probably do the shocks and everything. And I just picked up a cheap set of lowering springs while I was there, so it's lowered 40mm front and rear. I love how it sits on the back. I'm very happy with that, and I'm also really happy with the front. I quite like my cars to sit nice, and this does it really well. I have also got another set of alloy wheels to go on this, but we thought, well, for now, we picked up some decent tyres. It's got Pirellis on the front. I wouldn't ask about the brand on the back, but it's got Pirellis on the front.
Yeah.
So I thought for now, I'll leave it like this while it's in its dodgy state, and we're just kind of showing it off to people because it's now done. And then when it gets restored, the new wheels will go on with good tyres and everything like that. So if we come to the front, this is the big part of the car, as me and Owen say. So half the car is the bumper.
Literally, it's the bumper and the bonnet is just huge. Look, I mean, look at that front. Before the bonnet even starts, look at how much room there is.
Absolutely humongous, but in typical Volvo fashion, it's because all of this is safety. This whole chunk at the front doesn't massively have to be there, but it's basically crash.
Well, a lot of it is those headlights as well.
And these gorgeous pop-up headlights.
Of course.
We did take a little clip before. This one works fine all the time. This one comes up when it feels like it, so...
As you'll see in the end of the video.
So sometimes they come up together and you're like, oh great, but every now and again this one will come up, and then like a minute later this one will be like, oh yeah. And sometimes it only does it halfway, and that's on a better motor because that was seized when I bought it.
Yes, we fitted a replacement motor and it's still a bit temperamental.
Lazy, yeah.
It's fine.
For a car in 1991, daytime running lights this has, so all the time you've got a set of lights on. And it's also got really silly electrics for a car from the age, so if these are down and you flash, these will flash, but if the headlights are up, the headlights flash. I'm not going to go into that because my headlights are actually broken. I've only got main beam, which I discovered last night while driving home.
Not ideal, but we've got a new indicator stalk, so we'll fit that, and we should have main beam then, and a normal light, which would be nice.
It's not like one of those things I'm exactly surprised by with this car anymore, because
it's had a few issues.
They all have electrical issues, and unless you want to take all the electrics out and recommission them, you've got to accept this. It's going to be it's going to kind of do its own thing, yeah. Should we go to the interior?
Yeah, go for it. And while we're there, I'll just say that obviously while it was off the road, as you can tell, we haven't done much to the outside. We've mainly just done mechanicals. We've done you know, front lower arms, we've done the struts on the front with new springs. On the rear we've got new shocks and with new springs. We've got brake pads and discs all round. Under the bonnet we've got a new timing belt, we've got new engine oil filter, spark plugs, HT leads. Just had a few things. This is why it's been off the road for a while, and I must admit it's had some welding underneath as well, but ultimately it's here.
So I think I bought this car unseen, which I'm going to be honest to you, I wouldn't do. I wouldn't really recommend it to anyone either, but the car was so cheap and I so wanted it that I just did it. When it showed up, as you've seen, the exterior was so bad that I said to her, and I was like, well, that's going to have at least a full respray on the outside. We've had to buy a few replacement panels because there's dents and stuff in them. Someone's drilled a hole in the bonnet, for example, so we're going to restore the whole outside, but we decided to focus on making sure the car was roadworthy and mechanical with all the electrics and things like that we fixed on it. So the car is tatty on the outside, and I know it is, and I'm not bothered by that, but it does run properly. As I said, the headlights, that broke last night, so it went through the MOT fine. I don't want people thinking it didn't. It went through the MOT with no problem. It failed the first time, and then as I think, because it's being used now, the car's like, oh my god, I'm on the road, why am I on the road? And it's just throwing things up.
It's a running project, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
There's going to be a few things that it throws up, but ultimately 18 years off the road, it is going to throw up a couple of things as it gets used.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the day I picked it up from Owens, when it just passed the MOT, I took it to see one of my friends. Thermostat and the thermostat housing decided to go bang on us in the middle of absolute nowhere. Got it back to Owens, we fixed that. I got it back to Cardiff, and the coolant hose split about that much with the huge hole.
yeah,
So that had to be cut out and replaced, so it's now fine
at the
roughly,
moment.
on the coolant front. But now we've got the fault with the headlights. So as Owen says, I expect it. It's been off the road for 18 years, but if the car is running and I can use it, I'm happy, and I will fix things as I go along.
We were looking at the interior, weren't we now?
I was indeed, yes.
Yes.
So if you want to...
Let's get in there. And so as you can see, we've got the gauges here with the radio, which has now been wired in. It wasn't before. Turbo gauge actually works now. We had a few issues getting this running properly. The dash has been changed as well. It's showing a much higher mileage than it was before, because the dashes on these, they all crinkle up and go really bad. So that's been replaced. The running issues we've had with this car were mostly fuel related. It needed a new fuel filter, some new petrol, but as to be expected, obviously with 18-year-old petrol, it's going to be basically white spirit at that point. So that's been done. But the main thing it needed was the cat sorting, because the cat had actually disintegrated inside, so that's been sorted now. What else disintegrates are these. You can see a bit of the remnants of the foam that was inside these headrests. We have taken them out, cleaned them all out inside and put them back on. This just slightly stained, but they should come out eventually. But as you can see, they're still a little bit plumped up because they don't have any foam in them anymore, but we will sort that as well at some point. In the back, those seats have been put back in. It's got the centre ashtray there with the full size rear seats, which is obviously quite a signature thing for the Volvo 480 as well, to have such a comfy interior for its age. Because of the size, it's really nice in the back and really nice in the front.
And I don't know if you mentioned the infotainment system.
I haven't.
There you go.
Of course, I shouldn't forget another signature move of the Volvo 480, the infotainment system, which actually works now. The old dash was a bit odd with it, didn't really work properly, but it is fine on this one. So it gives you, your instant fuel, you've got your MPGs on there, average MPGs. It shows you how much fuel you've got, what range you've got, what your oil and engine temperature is.
It fault finds as well. So what's quite nice is I've obviously got the Panda aside this Classic, and in the Panda you've just got to guess if you've got a problem. If this has any issue, that little screen at the bottom is electric, and it'll come up and tell you to stop.
Yes.
And oh, that's so helpful.
It did when it leaked all of its water out after the thermostat failed.
Yeah.
They did say, please stop.
Yeah, and if anything, what I quite liked is when the coolant pipe went on me in Cardiff, I was on my own, I had no one with me, and the car overheated. I turned it off and it overheated, but it would not start again until it had cooled down, and it just came up with stop. It was like, don't try and start the car. So it's quite clever for its age, I guess.
The electronics are very ahead of its time, but I think that was also its downfall as well, because
Yeah.
you've got the Renault engine meeting the Volvo electronics for the rest of everything. I mean, with the pop-up headlights, and there's so many ECUs on this. Electric sunroof and everything, which actually works. That's one thing that does actually work. It's great.
And two funny electrical features which this car has got is in the seatbelt, there is, if it's dark, there is a light in there.
Yeah, it shines just here, little green light.
And there's also one in the keyhole.
Yes. At night you'll be able to see a green light through there so that you can put the key in.
So if it's dark and you've got the light on, those glow. You also get, what are they called? Something me lights.
Follow me home lights.
Follow me home lights. So for 30 seconds the lights stay on while you walk away from the car. So
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's really far ahead of its time, and I'm not saying they did it well because these are so notorious for being so faulty with the electrics. But it's really cool. I really like it. Do you want to have a look at the engine?
Let's pop the hood. Let's pop the hood. And another thing we should, of course, mention is that this is a manual.
It is. It is a 480 turbo SR because it's got the sunroof.
Of course.
As of Q1 of this year, there were 7 on the road.
Yeah.
I think this was just out Q1, so I'd like to say this will make it 8.
Yes.
But I'm just going by how many left on that.
Yeah, not the best site, but still it gives us an indication. And ultimately, there's not many.
No, it's not.
There's a few automatics around as well. I think the automatics are possibly more common, are they, or roughly the same?
I haven't looked, but whenever you go to shows, it's always the automatics that you see.
Yeah.
And until
Also, Georgina's too small, so she has to walk around the side of the car to lift the bonnet back.
It's too far for me to lift. Yeah, everyone that's ever come up, which has been a turbo, has been an automatic. So I think when this came up, even though it was a project, and God, it was cheap because it had so many issues with it, because it was a manual, I was like, yes. And I saw it was a sunroof, and I was like, well, that's not going to work. The sunroof works. I was incredibly impressed.
Yes.
And very happy as well, because it's quite cool. This is Owen's kind of expertise.
Yeah, well, this is the Renault style 1.7 turbo engine. Obviously the later ones had the 2-litre turbo, which I believe was a similar engine anyway. But yeah, I've done plenty of stuff under here to try and get it going properly. It's had a new timing belt. It's got the new HT leads, which Georgina managed to find even on eBay, the correct size, which is always a bonus, finding things the right size. Got new spark plugs, of course, new engine oil filter. It's had a horn put up here. It does sound absolutely abysmal, but it has a horn now. Basically, before that didn't work, of course, as with most other things on the car. It's had the brakes bled as well. Obviously, new wiper blades. Of course, that's not to do with the engine, but I'm just trying to think of things that we've done. So you've got the shocks there that we've done. Down here on the back, of course, I thought the turbo was actually ruined when we first had it, but it turns out it was just the cat blocked, which caused the awful running.
The guy we bought it off said it needs the turbo or a turbo actuator, so we just went off of what we were told,
Yes.
in fairness. And we didn't realise, well, Owen didn't realise.
Yeah,
I keep saying we like I helped. Owen didn't realise until he got it into the garage, and he was like, I don't think it's that, once you found the leak in
yes.
the front.
So, to start with, we checked for any boost leaks. We put basically a smoke machine into this side of the filter. Oh, we changed the air filter as well, and the battery while we're on the topic.
One.
Oh yes,
Doesn't mean
obviously
it does
performance. And basically the smoke machine detects any leaks, and we had a leak from this pipe, which is obviously changed and has new clips, and also we had a leak from the intercooler, which you probably can't really see, but the new one is obviously behind the little Volvo grille that's at the bottom there, which I had to take the nose cone off for to do. So yeah, it had a leak from there. That's been fixed, and then basically we did try changing the turbo actuator, but still didn't have any luck. So I did check the play in the turbo, and there was no play at all, and it seemed to be okay there. And obviously it was just the blocked cat that was causing the bad running issues. Gave it a bit of a jump as well. Every now and then you'd accelerate and it would just start jumping. So yeah, I'm trying to think what else we've done now. Obviously it did have new coolant, but it's had that at least a few times now, but it's leaked out so many times.
It's quite funny, because when I went to pick up my mate in this car, because he wanted to experience it, we both really liked these for as long as I've known him, and it broke down, and we had no water on us. I think the police stopped, he didn't have any water on us, and it was downhill. So this car had no coolant in it. We just put the ignition on and we just rolled it as far down the hill as we could, and then we had to wait for his mum to show up. But yeah, the thermostat housing just completely cracked, and the water just would not stay in there at all.
All the way down here, you have to take all of this stuff out to get to it. This is definitely a much harder thing to work on than any for Pandas. I mean, this makes me appreciate Pandas a lot for how easy they are to work on.
And I think that's why it took us
Took me a lot longer to
much longer. Just because it's something different. We're used to Fiats, and notoriously we're used to the fire engine, and Owen can work on those like that. Like,
yeah, easy peasy.
honestly, he did my Panda the other day because the the gear gator went.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
And him and Andy did that within an hour.
Yeah, easy peasy job.
Whereas
yeah.
if you did this, they'd both probably be hitting it with a hammer after 4 because everything on this car is so problematic. Another problem with it, which is not going to be much fun, the seal at the top of my fuel tank has gone. So if you fill this car up to full, it leaks. So for the first, it's literally this much.
There's a
design
tiny
of the
bit,
tank
yes.
is really bad. So it
Well,
sits
the tank,
above.
yeah, it just has a little ledge above the seal. Basically, the pump sits slightly lower, I think, just to give you a bit more room to fit the outlets underneath the car, because obviously it does actually have a port in the back which you can take out to change the pump, which is good because I don't want to take the tank out.
It's good, but Owen only put the back seats in after it had gone through the MOT, and you'd think the guy put on the 480 group, he went, yeah, it's under the handrest?
Armrest.
Armrest. Oh God, I can't get my words out. The armrest in the middle, but you have to take the seats out to get to it anyway.
They're not too bad in fairness. It's just more things, but
It's very Volvo 480 that they would put it under something like the armrest, and then
well,
make
it's where
it
it
more
has to be, isn't it?
complicated.
It's
Yeah,
where it has to be.
exactly, yeah. But yeah, I mean,
Ultimately, some things have been designed very well, and it does have a lot of perks, but execution 0 out of 10.
0 out of 10.
And standing the test of time 0 out of 10.
0
But
out of 10. I am
how cool is
impressed-
it?
I am impressed with it though.
Yeah.
It's really weird because I've always wanted one, and like we drive it down the motorway and it's so comfortable and it pulls properly and you can feel that it's a fast car.
Yeah.
And as I say, the engine's always run. So
Yeah, it
it's
has,
never
yeah.
not been a running car. It's always run, which you've got to give it to it. 18 years off the road, probably the same petrol for those bloody 18 years as well.
Yeah.
And it runs really nicely. It's just the things around it that just keep going.
Yeah.
So it's a strong, well-built car.
It just needs a bit of work.
And it needs some love. And I think now Owen's given it all that love since October, helping me just do the bits. And I know it's October and we didn't get it on the road until a few weeks ago, but we didn't want to rush this.
No.
If you think about it, with this car we have 12 cars at the moment, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And all
Very.
of them have issues, obviously. An issue will come
Speak for yourself.
up. Issues will come up. And in reality, I always said this wasn't a priority because it was sat off the road. Owen's dad didn't really mind.
Sorry, Dad. Again.
But it's gone now. It's going. Anyway, I know I've got 2 cars at your house at the moment and I apologise.
Well, the gear gate is fixed now, so that's a bonus. Just
Yeah.
need some brake discs on the Panda.
But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's one of these funny things where I think people see it and they're like, oh, that's been really badly looked after. But me and Owen see it as a survivor.
Yeah.
This car should not be here. I'm
Yeah.
being completely
A lot
honest.
of people would have just scrapped this at this point. I mean, a lot of the parts are worth a lot of money. And
I
they're
think
hard
for
to find.
I think for the price that I paid for it in the end, anyone who got it for that price would have scrapped it.
Yeah.
Into
I mean,
parts.
ultimately, the price it was, you could have ended up paying more than that for a set of rear lights.
Yes,
So,
easy peasy.
yeah.
And as I say, these parts are worth a lot of money. The body panel's not necessarily, because we actually bought a bonnet and 2 doors for like £10.
Yeah.
But these are worth a lot of money. These are worth insane amounts of
Oh,
money.
the driving lights are insane. Yeah, just
Massive money. Interior, those rear lights, as I say. So
it's hard to find bits because there's not many around. But
No.
yeah, someone's got to have them, haven't they?
yeah, but I'm happy when this is done, and I'm sure we can follow it on the channel when we do bits with it as well. I'm happy that this is going to live, and it is a keeper. I said to her, and I've always wanted one, and as much as it's very tatty, and I think people look at me like, why on earth are you driving that? That looks absolutely awful. I'm happy I've got it, and I think so long as it survives, I'm happy it's here.
So we're going to sign the video off there. Thanks very much for watching, and I'm sorry this video is slightly longer than usual, but at the end of the day there was a lot to say, and there's going to be plenty more on this car. It's got plenty of quirks, obviously there's plenty of work to do on it, but we're enjoying it. So, well, I say that, I mean I didn't enjoy some of the work on it, but at the end of the day I've helped a car survive that Georgina is enjoying, so hopefully it'll be up to scratch externally soon as well. But for now, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.